What would you do if you were humiliated simply because of what you wore? Not because of who you are, not because of what you've done, but because of the uniform that represents your country? Would you lash out or would you stand tall? This is a story about dignity, honor, and the quiet power of self-control. A lesson that shows true strength doesn't always come from confrontation, but from how you hold yourself under pressure. Before we jump in, hit that subscribe button and tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? Because trust me, you won't want to miss this. The evening sun draped Buckingham Palace in a soft golden glow. Tourists crowded the forecourt, raising cameras, laughing, pointing, trying to capture that perfect Instagram shot of the Queen's Guard. Statuesque figures in scarlet tunics, gleaming buttons, and towering bearskin caps. Sergeant Nathan Carter stood among them, perfectly still, 12 hours on his feet, his boots planted on the white limestone, his eyes fixed forward, the sweat trickling down his back unnoticed, his mind focused, his body aching, yet his posture unbroken. Inside that scarlet uniform was a man who had survived 3 combat deployments, pulled wounded comrades from burning vehicles, and led patrols through hostile territory. But here, in the heart of London, he was seen as a living statue, a tourist attraction. What the crowds didn't know was that the man behind the uniform was one of the British Army's finest, hand-selected for ceremonial duty, a post reserved only for the most disciplined and the most decorated. As the clock ticked toward shift change, Nathan thought briefly of his fellow guardsman, Lieutenant Alistair Penrose, who was supposed to relieve him, but had been hospitalized with pneumonia. Without hesitation, Nathan had volunteered for the double shift. It wasn't the first time. It wouldn't be the last. Captain James Whitmore, Nathan's commanding officer, stood at the edge of the forecourt, his sharp eyes scanning the scene. A veteran himself, Whitmore understood both the physical strain and the mental resilience required to hold post. As the ceremony concluded, Whitmore approached. "Sergeant Carter," he called. Nathan turned, his muscles protesting every movement. "At ease, Nathan," Whitmore said, a rare softness in his voice. "You've gone above and beyond today." Nathan gave a respectful nod. "Just doing my duty, sir." Whitmore smiled faintly, pulling out an elegant envelope embossed with gold. "A little token of appreciation, a dinner voucher for the Harrington, one of London's finest." Nathan's brows lifted slightly. "Sir?" "You've earned it, Sergeant," Whitmore said. "Go tonight, enjoy it. And wear your uniform. Wear it proudly." That evening, Nathan arrived at the Harrington. Elegant brass fixtures, floor-to-ceiling windows, valet service at the entrance. The kind of place where London's elite dined. Politicians, celebrities, diplomats. Nathan adjusted his cuffs, squared his shoulders, and entered. Inside, a pianist played softly in the corner. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead. Waitstaff glided between tables, set with linen and silver. Behind the maitre d' stand stood Veronica Brooks, a statuesque blonde with a polished smile. "Good evening," she began, but her expression faltered as her eyes swept over Nathan's uniform. "Do you have a reservation, sir?" she asked carefully. Nathan handed her the envelope. Veronica's smile tightened slightly. "Ah, please follow me." Although the central tables stood empty, she led him to a tucked-away corner near the kitchen. Nathan, too disciplined to complain, sat quietly. Minutes passed before his waiter appeared. Sean Miller, young, sharply dressed, carrying an air of subtle superiority. "First time dining with us?" Sean asked. "Yes," Nathan answered evenly. "Well, our menu can be sophisticated for first-time guests," Sean said, his smile tinged with condescension. "Perhaps I can help you choose something suitable." Nathan studied the menu calmly. "I'll decide for myself, thank you." Throughout the evening, Nathan felt the undertone of judgment. His appetizer arrived slowly. His water glass stayed empty long after it should have been refilled, and Sean's tone hovered between amusement and disdain. "Will someone be joining you this evening?" Sean asked pointedly. "No, just me." "Ah, how unusual." Sean's eyes swept over Nathan's uniform again. "Quite the costume, if I may say." Nathan's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. The final insult came with the main course. Sean approached with a bottle of Bordeaux. "Our sommelier suggests this pairing, though. Perhaps it's a bit sophisticated for someone from the barracks." And with a sudden flick of his wrist, the wine tipped, cascading in a dark red stream across Nathan's immaculate scarlet tunic. A collective gasp rippled through the nearby tables. Sean stepped back, theatrically. "Oh, my apologies, sir. How clumsy of me." Nathan rose slowly, dabbing at the stain with his napkin. "This uniform," he said softly, his voice carrying, "is not a costume. It represents centuries of service and sacrifice. Men have died in it." Sean's smile faltered slightly. Philip Saunders, the floor manager, appeared. "Is there a problem here, sir?" Nathan met his gaze evenly. "No, sir, but didn't," Nathan said. "Thank you for the meal." With measured grace, Nathan placed his napkin on the table, turned, and walked out. The next morning at Buckingham Palace, Captain Whitmore immediately noticed the faint stain on Nathan's tunic. "What happened?" he asked quietly. Nathan relayed the evening's events, precise and factual. Whitmore's face darkened. "They called your uniform a costume?" "Yes, sir. Several times." Without another word, Whitmore strode to his office. Nathan could see him through the frosted glass. On the phone, his voice low but tight with fury. That afternoon, Lord Richard Harrington himself arrived back in London. By evening, Whitmore and Nathan were invited back to the restaurant, this time as honored guests. Outside the Harrington, the entire staff stood lined up, flanked by Lord Harrington, a distinguished figure in a tailored suit. Inside, the pianist played "God Save the King." The restaurant was full, the air tense with anticipation. Lord Harrington stepped forward. "Captain Whitmore, Sergeant Carter, please come inside." As they sat at the finest table, Veronica, Philip, and Sean approached, one by one. "Sergeant Carter," Veronica began, her voice shaking slightly. "My behavior last night was unacceptable. I am truly sorry." Philip followed. "Captain Sergeant, I failed in my duties. The disrespect you experienced reflects a failure of leadership on my part. I apologize sincerely." Finally, Sean stood before them, his earlier arrogance replaced by visible remorse. "Sergeant," he said quietly, "I disrespected you, and I damaged your uniform. I have no excuse. I am deeply sorry." Lord Harrington rested a hand on Nathan's shoulder. "I have offered them the chance to resign," he said, "but the decision is yours, Sergeant." Nathan looked at each face before him. "I accept your apologies," he said simply. "Everyone deserves the chance to learn from their mistakes." Whitmore gave a small nod of approval. Lord Harrington's eyes crinkled with admiration. "You're more gracious than most would be, Sergeant." Nathan smiled faintly. "The uniform represents something greater than personal grievances, sir." The evening shifted from confrontation to camaraderie. Lord Harrington shared stories from his own military days. Whitmore recounted tales from his Gulf War service. Sean, now assigned to personally serve their table under Lord Harrington's watchful eye, worked with quiet humility. As Nathan and Whitmore left the Harrington, the city lights twinkled across Mayfair. Nathan paused, glancing back at the grand facade. "Not quite how I imagined the night ending," he murmured. Whitmore clapped him on the shoulder. "Respect sometimes needs to be taught, Nathan, but once it's learned, it's rarely forgotten." The next day, Nathan resumed his post at Buckingham Palace, his uniform once again immaculate. He stood tall, calm, focused, knowing that the events of the previous night had reinforced something essential. Dignity doesn't come from how others treat you. It comes from how you conduct yourself when tested. And in that, Sergeant Nathan Carter had proven himself every bit the guardian his uniform proclaimed him to be. Have you ever been unfairly judged because of your appearance, your uniform, or your background? How did you handle it? Tell us in the comments below. Your story might inspire someone watching today. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another story of quiet courage, dignity, and honor. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, share this video with them. Because sometimes the greatest lessons come not from loud victories, but from quiet strength.